Hey, this is Reggie of Reggie's PC Resources. You can reach me online at www.rpcr.com. I'm located in the greater Philadelphia area, in particular in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, up in Montgomery County. And I serve my communities by helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and even churches to reach people that they otherwise would not have reached by the use of websites. I build websites for organizations, for small organizations, to help them expose their brand to people, to those that they otherwise would not have been exposed to. All right, especially when you're talking about e-commerce. All right. Again, my website is www.rpcr.com. You can also reach me via telephone. Yes, I use a telephone at 215-362-0967. That's 215-362-0967. All right. I thought I would take this opportunity real quick to present to you some tips for purchasing a new computer, because I've gotten several requests lately, and I thought I would share some of that information with you. I'm actually in a process of, building a new studio, because another thing I'm going to do, and stay tuned, I'm going to start having some online courses for you to learn different aspects of technology. For example, WordPress, website development, HTML, CSS, so forth and so on, and just other tips for hardwares and for software, using your computer, and so forth and so on. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up, and I'm really, really, really excited about that because I love teaching. All right. On my website, there is an article called, what is it called? It's called The Tips for Purchasing a New Computer. And that's what I'm going to go over with some of my own commentary, even though I wrote the article. All right. One of the first things that you need to know if you're going to buy a new computer is simple. Ask yourself, what am I going to use this computer for? All right. And you might want to get a little bit more by saying, what might I use this computer for in the future? What might I grow into? All right. Maybe right now you have a certain requirement. You're going to use a computer, let's say for surfing the web or whatever, but that in a few months you might start new classes, and so you might need you may have additional requirements at that time. So you can build that into your purchasing requirements for your computer. So the important thing, the very, very, very important, what are you gonna use your computer for? All right. If you're going to use your computer as like a household computer where you can just surf the web, maybe check email, look at some videos or whatnot, that's one thing. But if you're saying you're going to use your computer because I want to do some video editing and audio editing and I want to create movies, well, that's a whole different, set of requirements, okay, than the former. All right, so the first thing that you need to ask yourself, what am I going to use this computer for? What applications will I run? All right, are you going to just be using like Office or some type of Office suite, word processor, spreadsheet, maybe a database or something like that? Or are you going to be playing games, or are you going to be running high-powered software? Are you going to be doing CAD work or design work? And you're going to have Adobe Premiere Pro or some audio editing software, so you have to think about that, because the software itself, your software will have its own minimum requirements. You never use the minimum requirements. You always use the recommended requirements, okay? They're going to have a set of requirements. For example, a software may have a limitation or minimum amount of memory you should have, how much hard disk space you're going to have, so forth and so on. So you need to know what software you plan to run on your computers. Are you going to travel a lot? Do you think you might want to travel with your computer? Do you do a lot of traveling with your computers? Well, that means you want to get perhaps a notebook. And even if you were going to get a notebook in the first place, you might want to consider the weight of the notebook. How easy is it for that notebook to travel, the battery life, so forth and so on, and security measures. All right. So those are some things that you want to. Another thing you want to think about when you're going to get a computer. Another thing is, what kind of monitor are you going to have? Some people want a big monitor. Some people want a humongous monitor. Some people may want two, or three or more. Some people may just need a small monitor. So whatever you need, that's what you, put into your specifications for the computer that you're going to use. Now, how much disk space will you need? How big of a hard drive do you need? What kind of hard drive do you want? So forth and so on. All right. Maybe you want very, very, very fast hard drive, an SSD. Maybe just a regular SATA hard drive will do. I always recommend 7200 RPM minimum. All right. Okay. What audio capabilities do you need? Are you going to want to have a surround sound system connected to your computer? Or do you just need regular speakers? You have to consider, are you an audiophile and you want really, really good sound? Well, now you got to get into a specific type of sound card that you're going to use. All right. Now, system parameters. All right, another thing you got to be concerned about or consider is your system parameter. All right, what kind of operating system are you going to have? Do you want Windows? Maybe you want a Mac. I don't really deal with Macs, but these are things you need to think about. Maybe you're going to go to college and the school uses Macs for their as their computer platform. All right, so those things you got to think about. Most people, just about everybody that I encounter, they want a Windows computer. Linux is another one. Linux is a very popular operating system. I like it, especially for older machines because it's not as bloated as Windows. Okay. How much memory do you need? Now, of course, a lot of this is driven by the software that you want to use. So what kind of memory do you need? All right. How much memory do you need for your computer? 8 gigabytes is the minimum. All right. 12, 16 is better. All right. Especially if you like to open a lot of things, or if you have software like a video editing software or audio editing software that will work much better if it has more memory. As a matter of fact, they'll have minimum requirements for your memory. All right. All right. So these are some things you got to think about when you want to buy a computer. How much disk drive space you're going to need. I mentioned that a little earlier. What type of disk? I would recommend an SSD drive, a solid state drive. However, if possible, especially if you have a laptop, I like to have a hybrid system where you have an SSD for your operating system and you have a regular SATA hard drive with the spinning platters for your data. Okay? What kind of microprocessor do you want? All right, and that's just going to determine overall, in general, the speed or the speed of the computer, how fast it is in doing things. All right, that's not the only factor in the speed, but that is a big factor. All right, so those are things you got to consider. What kind of ports do you need? You have maybe you already have a monitor. You're going to use the same monitor. You have a printer or whatever. You have to know what kind of ports you need so that you make sure the new computer you have, will have those ports. All right. We talked about your monitor. If you're going to get a new monitor, what kind of monitor you want? Right there, big monitor, widescreen monitor. Most is going to be a widescreen monitor. How big? 24-inch, 32-inch, so forth and so on. What type of resolution you need if you're going to be doing video editing. If you like to watch high definition movies on your computer, then of course you're going to want a a decent monitor, a good monitor, high definition monitor. All right. Of course, don't forget the keyboard and the mouse. What kind of keyboard do you want? What kind of mouse do you want? Like, for example, I use trackballs. I don't really use mouse. Like, here's one of mine here. This is not my primary. I have a Logitech trackball, but this is a pretty good one. It's a big one. It's nice, but you might have a trackball, or you might have, your standard mouse. Okay, so you got to determine, what do you want? What kind of, and there are all kinds of different mice or mouse or keyboards out there. Do you want a cordless, wireless keyboard? Do you want a keyboard with a numeric pad on the right, different types of controls on it, so forth and so on? So you want to pay attention to that, because having the right keyboard really helps make your life easier, especially when you're doing a lot of work on the computer. All right. So those are some basic things you're going to want to consider when you're purchasing a new computer. The resources for the computer, how much memory, what kind of processor, but those are really driven by what you're going to use the computer for, the software that you're going to use, the type of operating system, and so forth and so on, will determine or will push you towards a minimum or recommended or let's say a basic requirement for the computer. For example, a basic requirement for a computer, if you were just going to buy a computer for the family to surf the web, check email, maybe do some shopping, of course, on Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Maybe an 8 gig system, but I would say 12 at, 12 to 16 if possible. Give you some growing room. A terabyte hard drive, SATA hard drive, at least 7,200 RPM. And if you can push it, have an SSD hard drive for your operating system, and a second drive, a SATA drive, for your data and files and all that kind of stuff, your pictures and whatnot. You can have a separate drive for that. I'll have another video that gets where I give more details on that, because that's important. I mean, this is just a general things to think about based on the article that I wrote, but I will have more detailed videos on these different things. Like, I'll even show you, parts of a computer and so forth and so on. You want to have a certain number of USB ports. Yeah, USB 2, USB 3, so forth and so on, 3.2. You want to have maybe one or more HDMI port. Maybe you want to have a display port for your monitor, even though display ports, it's not always implemented, but it can do audio as well. All right. Maybe you want a 24-inch flat screen monitor. Yeah, maybe you want a 32-inch flat screen monitor. All right. Another thing that you might want to consider is, do you want to have monitor arms? And I'm just going to throw that out there. I'll get into detail with that in another video, where we get into detail about these components. But those are some things that you should consider when you want to buy a new computer. The first thing is, what are you going to use it for? Because that's going to drive your requirements. That's going to drive the specifications that you're going to need for that computer to perform satisfactorily for what you want to use it for. All right. So that's it. What are you going to use it for? And that's going to tell you how much memory you need, disk drive space you need, how fast it has to be, as far as performance, how much, like I said, hard drive, what kind of monitor you need, keyboard, mouse, all that kind of thing. All right. All right. I hope this has been helpful to you. If so, then please, let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up, all right, if you find this to be helpful. And stay tuned, because I'm going to have a lot more of these videos. I've been in IT for over 30 years, building websites, building computers, networks, so forth and so on. And I do it through my company, rpcr.com. And feel free to check it out. If you would like to reach people and have a functioning, not just a pretty, but a nice looking functioning website to get customers to have a place where they can come and learn about you and perhaps even buy your products or services, then give me a call, 215-362-0967. Go to my website, fill out the website information form, or just contact me. Send me an email, reggie@rpcr.com. All right, this is Reggie, and I pray you have a great rest of your day or rest of your evening, depending on when you're watching this, okay? Well, you all have a good one.